Hi, my name is David. Welcome back to Fresh Faces New Ideas. If you're new to the channel or you like what I do and want to get updates to when I put up more videos, please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter. Now, for this video, we're going to talk about Ben Shapiro. It's been a little while since I did one. This video covering this topic is a little later. There was other things I was focused on last week. But he recently had a couple statements about them changing the scientific thought on climate change from climate change to an emergency, and he has some thoughts on use of the word emergency and whether or not it's an emergency. Now, remember, Ben Shapiro is the facts don't care about your feelings guy. So his belief is, and this is what I believe as well, is it does not matter what you feel is true. The facts are what they are. What he's going to say has nothing to do with facts. I'm going to actually show you the facts and why he's wrong. So there's that. So we're going to go look at this definition. We're going to watch this video, and then I'm going to show you some other data around it as well.
Scientific American has become more and more politicized these days. They openly endorsed Joe Biden for president. It was not a complete shock, but you saw Nature do the same thing. A bunch of...
Okay. I don't mind this, that they endorsed Joe Biden for president, because let's be clear, Donald Trump was the least scientific-based president in the history of the world. He thought that keep in mind, 2016, this man believed that humans were a battery, that the more you worked out, the more your internal levels of energy just dropped anyway. This is what he believed. He thought the sound from windmills caused cancer, and he thought you could nuke a hurricane. So yes, just basic understanding of science should have helped them say, you should listen to Joe Biden.
These quote-unquote scientific magazines suddenly have a very strong political bent. Who could have predicted such a thing? Okay, there's a piece in Scientific American.
Okay, so here's something in general. I think one of the things that scientists are now realizing is they needed to be more open with their facts and more aggressive with the information that they've come up with, because just putting this data out here for people to interpret is how you end up with two sides to the same facts, or how you have it, even though 98% of the world's scientists agree that climate change is real, you have 2% that don't, because they're funded by the Koch brothers. It's promoted as 50-50. So the scientists, I think, need to have been more aggressive in there. Also, we had a massive breakthrough for the Republican Party, and think about what I'm referring to. This is actually a massive breakthrough. Lindsey Graham has said climate change is real. Now, let's be clear. The U.S. Republican Party is the only major institute in the world that actively fights against the existence of climate change. Bar none. Okay?
In which the magazine announces that they are no longer going to use the term climate change. Instead, they're going to use the term climate emergency. Now, I was not aware that there's a scientific designation that amounts to emergency.
Look, I was looking this up. I couldn't really find one. So yes, well, he's right. However, they've changed the way they've referred to climate change before, because just because of how it was being used. And look, it is an emergency. And while they don't have emergency designations for some things, there are emergencies that are happening. They have extinction level events. This should be considered an extinction level event. Because let's be clear. Should the climate become uninhabitable, hit these levels that people are projecting, the Earth isn't going to die. This is not like a meteorite destroys the Earth or it explodes or something. What is going to happen is humans will no longer be able to live here. The planet will exist. It'll just be an extinction level event.
There is such a thing in medicine, for example. There's emergency medicine, right, which is the person's going to die if you don't do something about it right now. But climate emergency...
Also, a little bit of counterpoint to this. I'm pretty sure a pandemic is considered a scientific emergency. But, you want to debate that. I would be interested to see what people think.
It's not as though a certain level of climate change occurring over the course of the century turns it from just change to emergency. This is a completely political designation. And by the way, I do not consider it a quote-unquote emergency.
Okay, here is the crux of this. I do not consider it a climate emergency. Okay, cool. I hope we're about to be inundated by the facts don't care about your feelings kid with some facts to prove that it is not, in fact, an emergency.
If the climate were to warm 4 degrees Celsius over the course of the next century.
Keep in mind, the goal is by 2030, 2050 to have it lower, not go over 1.2 degrees, or it's between like 1.5 and 2 degrees. That's the goal, is to keep it there. So he's saying if we just blow past that and go to 4 degrees, it's no big deal. So we're going to go look into more of this.
I consider that a gradual change that human beings are going to have to adapt to with increased technological know-how as well as innovation, which human beings have been doing for literally all of the history of humankind. Adaptation, we're really good at it. Mitigation, not so much.
We're not really good at adaptation. We're also not good at mitigation. We kind of just fumble our way through things. Look, most of the scientific advancements in human history have come in the last century. For a long time, we didn't innovate things just in general. We were hunter and gatherers for a very long time. It wasn't really until steam and then the explosion of innovation came with the understanding of the internet and technology. That is where most of our innovations come from, the last 50 years.
In any case, Scientific American now says that it is a scientific duty for them to call this a climate emergency, which is just a lie. It's just a way for them to create a certain level of alarmism that is unjustifiable.
A certain level of alarmism is unjustifiable. Where are the facts for any of the things you're stating, Ben?
By the facts on the ground. The fact is the economies around the world are growing at such a rapid clip that the amount of damage to be done to humankind on the basis of climate change is a small percentage of global GDP on an economic level.
That's just a word salad that means nothing. So our economies are big, so the scale that it would be on humans based on the GDP is small. What does that even mean? That's not one of the issues of climate change.
And in terms of actual human damage, we should be focused on how to mitigate that human damage, but we are not talking, as so many people have suggested, about billions of people dying or hundreds of millions of people dying or anything like that.
I wonder if there's any data that proves Ben right, or if there's data that proves Ben wrong. And I'm hinting at the latter because I haven't.
We're not even talking about tens of millions of people dying. We're not talking about probably millions of people dying.
Okay, we're not even talking about millions. So let's get through this. This is a designated from the U.S. Army. Climate change is now a national security priority. And why is that? Because when the climate is changing, it causes land masses to shift. It causes extreme weather conditions. That changes how the Army responds. Also, we keep seeing these once in a generation, once in 100 years, once in 500 years, hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, things like that are happening more frequently. The only reason 2020, the December 2020, wasn't the hottest record, one of the hottest records ever, was because there was a La Nina event. And then instead of that, it was the 8th hottest record. So climate change is getting worse. Let's look at deaths. Because according to Ben, there's no way we're going to lose billions and billions of people. In 2014... the WHO said the climate change. Oh, and we can't trust the WHO now because they're a communist, Marxist, satanic pedophile group of Chinese communists, according to Republicans, that claim the climate change will bring with it malaria, diarrhea, heat stress, malnutrition, killing more than people annually in the world from 2030 to 2050. So the conservative estimate for this year is 250,000 deaths a year. So from 2030 to 2050, the conservative estimate is 250,000 people. So in that 20-year period, just assuming things don't get worse as time goes on, that is, 250,000. Let's take a look. $250. That's 5 million people. I guess that's not a big deal. To be fair, this makes sense from a conservative argument because the almost 1 million people that died from COVID is just not a big deal to them. So, yes, Ben, millions of people will die. And this is just on this. We're not even talking about the climate refugees. We're not even talking about the actual climate events that will happen. And then, so let's take a look at what would happen if there was a 4-degree increase. So, among the foreseen consequences, so this is what they guess are happening. The inundation of coastal cities. This is a rise in water levels. Let's remember who Ben Shapiro also is. Ben Shapiro's genius idea is, if your house gets flooded, just sell it and move, forehead. Just sell it and move. Look, one of my favorite all-time memes is Ben Shapiro talking this, and the guy breaks down the wall and screams at him, sell it to who, Ben? Aquaman? Is just so on point. Because look, nothing that Ben said in that statement is backed up in fact. It's just his feelings over and over again. Let's see. So, increased risk for food production, potentially leading to higher malnutrition rate. Many dry regions becoming drier and wet regions wetter. God, I can't speak. Look, the whole point of this is climate change will make it harder to grow food. What happens when you can't grow food? People starve. We have currently enough money to not make people starve. It's just there. We could wipe out global poverty. We have that type of resources. We just don't do it. So how are we going to handle this when it gets even worse? We don't have enough food. Unprecedented heat waves, substantial exuberating water scarcity. This is what Kamala Harris was talking about, was a potential future water wars. Increased frequency of high-intensity tropical cyclones. Irreversible loss of biodiversity, including coral reef systems. This is all stuff that's currently happening. It's becoming harder to grow food. We see the increase of hurricanes. What do we have? 4 Category 5 hurricanes last year at the same time, something like that. Some crazy number. The coral reef has been dying forever, and it's some type of barrier. I don't know exactly what the coral reef does, but anyway, let's wrap this up. Look, I talk about Ben Shapiro all the time, but not all the time. But it is worth remembering he is considered one of the thought leaders of the right. This is a man who just gish gallops and just talks super quickly to throw a whole bunch of straw men at you, and then claim that, oh, I'm debunking something, or the facts don't care about my feelings, but a lot of time my feelings overreact, and they're what I say. So look, he's very wrong on this subject. This idea that climate change is not a big deal is wrong. Also, it is counterintuitive to the fact that climate science would allow us to create technologies that we could use to create jobs. So not only is he wrong about the death toll and the economic impact, he's just wrong about everything else. Look, this is always frustrating whenever he comes on, because he's perceived as this wonder boy, and he's just not. He's just wrong on almost every topic. It's incredible how good the media is for him. It's also been proven that the Daily Wire breaks Facebook's own rules, that Facebook has admitted to it, and that's part of how they get their popularity, is they just cheat to do it. So, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter @FacesIdeas, and I will see you in the next one.